by Grab and Go and Grab and Go Concessions. I'm your chef, John. Today, I'm your host, and I got audio. I actually, when I go out on the road, I get a lot of questions. For instance, kind of written them down and like startup money questions about opening up a food truck, permits and legal questions, equipment, sort of like operations and menus and things like that. I got about I don't know, maybe like 50 questions that I actually take notes when people see me perform on the road. And the first thing that comes into a person's mind in any business is like, am I going to make money? Uh, that part I can't answer. It all depends on location, your experience, and how much you put into the business. Okay. Sometimes you don't have to invest much to get a great to get a great outcome as far as a good investment as far as to get your money in return. One of the first questions people would say, well, how much does it cost to start a food truck? Uh, and I would answer them. I would say, well, is it a food truck or a food trailer? What is it that actually you want to do? All right. Most people don't know what they just call it a food truck. Um, there's a difference between a trailer and a food truck. My preference is a trailer because trailer breaks, truck breaks down. I can rent a truck and keep going, right? You can go right on to some car rental place and then rent a pickup truck, even a U-Haul, and you can actually haul, you can actually haul your food trailer. So that way you're never down. Me personally, like I always say, start out with a small food trailer, like a one door, and go from there. Why? Because when you're starting out, you need the experience and you have less equipment to deal with. Like for instance, in my food trailer, I got two freezers. I got two commercial freezers, one commercial fridge, one small fridge, flat top, stove, char grill, 13-foot hood, two slushy machines, ice cream freezer, two air conditioners, and so on. So the thing is, with my experience, I'm able to handle something like that, and it's comfortable. It's got room. It's like it's 20 something feet long, plus the tongue. You figure 26 feet. You don't want to get into something like that. First of all, you got to learn how to drive it. Okay, you figure a pickup truck that's a pickup truck is probably in the vicinity of 20 feet long, and then you got yourself a 26-foot trailer. Do the math. That's not something you can zip around town with. That's the reason why I would say get a smaller trailer, like a one menu, two menus. You can start off with that. Okay. Backing in a trailer takes practice. The smaller ones are even worse. I'm serious. Because the smaller ones, they'll jackknife in within a second or so. So that's something that you want to get to learn how to drive and make sure that you perfect it. Because in certain very tense moments, you're going to start freaking out like, oh my God, I can't back this thing in, simply because you got a bunch of people waiting on you or looking at you or expecting something from you, or you got a bunch of other trucks that want to get in and you keep backing up, coming out, backing up, coming back out. First thing you got to do, you got to practice backing up the trailer, regardless of the size. Like I said, the smaller ones are even worse because what they do is they jackknife. You know, the bigger ones they kind of take time to to spread out, close back in. You know, like it's harder to jackknife a big trailer. Anyway, the second question would be like, is buying a used food truck worth it? A used food truck to me, wow, that's a good question. Is buying a good food truck worth it? It all depends on what you're gonna do with it. Are you gonna travel with the food truck? Are you gonna go from place to place with the food truck? First of all, I don't like food trucks that go from place to place. You can't make money that way. You stop at some place and you do chicken wings and fries, and then next thing you know, you got another stop at some warehouse. You're driving around with hot grease. That is not safe. I'm sorry, you can drain the grease, put it in the bucket. Now you got yourself a hot deep fryer, which is not good for the drum. Some people say, "Well, I use an ice bucket to cool the oil off." That is too much. And then some people would say to me, "Well, I have a cap. I can cap the deep fryer." That I never saw. I seen a guy actually cut up a piece of plywood when he's ready to go. He sticks it in there. You're still driving around with hot oil. Hot oil can ignite. I'm not too much in the as far as the what do you call it? I'm not into the I'm not too much into the driving around with the food truck. Yes, if you find a food truck that is probably used and it's worth buying, do it. I wouldn't focus so much on the food truck itself. I would focus more on more the equipment that's inside the truck. If you get the truck inspected and you like what's inside of it, you can buy it. I mean, I would buy a food truck with a bad engine. You know what I'm saying? And just repair it. But if it's not your thing, don't do it. But um, if you're gonna buy the truck, you're gonna park the truck somewhere. You know, if you're gonna park the truck somewhere, that's fine. You can buy a used truck. That's not an issue. But if you're gonna drive around with it, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't buy a used food truck. Well, yeah, but then again, you got to watch the mileage. How many miles is on there? You got to have a mechanic. To me, I'd have a mechanic check it out, transmission and all. We go from there. The third question is, should I rent or buy a truck? If you rent a food truck, I can't guarantee that you're gonna make money. Honestly, no, I cannot. I mean, I can't. Um, Alan, how you doing? All right. The What do you mean nobody cares? Literally, what does that mean? Anyway, I wouldn't rent a truck because well, how much are you gonna rent the truck for? Are you gonna rent the truck for say 1,000 a week? You're gonna rent the truck for 500 a week? You just got to make sure you're in a good position. If you do rent that truck from someone, that person gets paid and you get paid because you got to remember expenses. You got to remember maintenance, and you got to remember the rent that you're paying the person, and then the rent that you're probably going to pay where your spot is. Now, if this food truck is sitting in a spot and the owner is paying the rent, yeah, you can jump in the food truck or trailer and start selling food as long as you don't have to pay two rents. So if you're paying two rents, to me, it is not worth it. No. So yeah, I would buy a truck. Make sure that before you buy a truck, you got somewhere to park it. A lot of these counties and cities, they don't allow you to have a food truck visible. If you got a big backyard and you got good neighbors, Most people don't have good neighbors. They have jealous neighbors. So you got to know that, are you going to buy this food truck when it's not in use? Or are you going to spend money to park it somewhere? Okay. You got $100,000 in a food truck. You can't leave it out of sight, man. Somebody will take something out of it purposely. They'll do something with it. You know what I mean? Or something malicious. So I would rather buy my own. And another thing too, when you buy a food trailer, you don't have to buy all this equipment. You don't have to buy all this. All you got to do is get yourself a nice trailer. If you can afford to wrap it, you can wrap it with whatever you like. I don't put menus on the wrap. Never put a menu on a truck. Never do that. You know why? Because that menu might be where you might go to a different event, and the first thing people do is they look at your wrap, and it's like, oh, they sell burgers. You might not have burgers for that specific event. People get pissed off because they wanted that burger. So me personally, you can do like a general wrap on your truck, and then you can have a menu accordingly. But then again, I wouldn't put my menu as far as like number one, number two in the wrap. Don't do that. That's not good. Another thing that I suggest, if you're a Puerto Rican, or you're Jamaican, or you from Africa, don't put your flag on the truck, man. No, I'm sorry, don't do that. That's like operating a truck without a credit card machine. You know why? Because if you go to an event, people see a Puerto Rican flag on your truck, they assume you're cooking Puerto Rican food. Seriously, they do. They assume that, okay, well, there's a mofongo truck. If you got a Jamaican flag on your truck, people are like, hey man, people are visual. Oh, there's a Jamaican truck. They're gonna expect oxtails. They're gonna expect saltfish, and they're gonna expect Jamaican food. So me personally, I wouldn't make that mistake and put my flag, any flag, on a food truck, unless that's what you do. If you sell Puerto Rican food, Dominican food, put it on there. That's fine. But like I said before, you go to an event that you're not selling your ethnic actually food, that can be a problem. Okay, let's go to the how much money do food trucks really make? I can't tell you how much money do food trucks really make. It's how much money that the area that you're in, the type of presentation that you have, and what you serve, and it's the rest of it is up to you. Okay, you got 10 things on the menu, you're not going to make money. You got three things on the menu, you're going to make money, because as soon as the person walks up to the food truck, you got your A-frame about, say, where the last person would stand, right? And your A-frame is like, okay, what do they got? Person looks at the first menu: Philly's cheesesteak and fries. um the second would be like an Italian sausage, or the third would be like a Polish. You got three things on the menu. It could be three of anything. Fried platanos. You could have um, fried plantains with fried pork, or you can do fried chicken and plantains and everything else. From that very first A frame, the person looks at, guess what? They're going to make up their mind. Okay? Pictures, pictures, pictures. Don't do this number one, number two, fish, number three, hot dog. Don't do that. People do not read. Okay? Trust me, people do not read. If they do read it, it's like, well, what does it come with? There's always like, do I get two for that price? No. Make a nice picture. Actually, I can actually make you pictures. Any any of you guys who needs to make menu uh photos, A-frames and banners, you leave me a link, and believe me, I will. I'll print it to you. You just have to you have it. I'll send it to you. You got to have it printed out. I'll do the graphics, the digitizing, and everything else. Okay. So me personally, again, do you make money on a food truck? Yes, you can make a lot of money on a food truck. You got to realize it's a tight space, and food trucks get hot. Don't kill yourself. If you feel you made enough money for the day, take it easy. Don't be drinking beer on the truck and all that stuff, and you get delirious. Just focus. You're gonna do 8 hours inside the truck, 5 hours in the truck. You figure Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the rest of it you can choose to you rest for 2 days and you start prepping again. Okay? You can make money in a food truck, make a lot of money, but you gotta have all your ducks together. You gotta have all your T's and J's and everything crossed and dotted and stuff. Because if you're all over the place, you won't make the money that you're supposed to make. Do you need a partner in the food truck? Yes, you need a partner. Your spouse is probably the best partner. Maybe your mom and uncle, somebody who understands that when you're not making money, they're not going to get paid as much. So when you are making money, of course, if they help you, you guys help each other, you can make a lot of money. But when it comes to payroll, paying people, you got to have a set price. You can't just say, well, if I make money today, man, I'll give you an extra $100. No, you got to have a base. So you got base pay. Whether you make money or not, that person has to get paid. So when it's time for you to make that surplus, that person don't expect more money. All right, next question. How long does it take to become profitable? Well, do you have restaurant experience? Do you have chef's experience? How long does it take to become profitable? You can have a food truck. You can pick up a food truck today. Once you get your menu and everything together, you can start making money the next day. Of course. If you can find a nice spot somewhere in a flea market, somewhere near there's a lot of foot traffic, you start making money right away. One of the things that sells like in front of a Home Depot is the Italian sausage, man. But most times you find it where they make the Italian sausage, the casing is always stuck when you bite. You pull it out. Well, don't do it that way. Kind of steam the sausage before you serve it. You can steam the sausage, get rid of the casing, meaning you melt the casing, and then you can grill it in front of the person, give it the grill marks. When they bite into it, they won't have that casing, the membrane that they have to either chew on and eventually spit it out. You can actually steam the sausage or you can boil it in peppers and onions and everything else. You'll have your sauce. There is I got a spice that if you guys are interested, that I put in my Italian sausage and they love it, especially people with dentures. You know what I mean? They don't like to chew on that casing. Okay, the next question: how long does it? No, what hidden cost should I expect? Hidden costs that you should expect: repairs, unexpected breakdowns, like a refrigerator going down, um, a flat tire. If it's a truck, eventually the drive shaft is going to start. It's a lot of weight. Um, I don't know. If it's a truck, you should expect breakdowns like flat tires, brakes, um, fluids. Uh, I don't know. I'm not going to scare you and say the transmission can go bad. That's one of the things. If you make sure, you got to make sure that when you do buy a food truck, you probably got to look at the mileage. You do your research, make sure that no one's tricked the mileage and everything. I figure a food truck that is under 100,000, under 200,000 miles, diesel engine in it should last you a while. Japanese diesels are much better. If you can get your hands on one, go for it. But if you're going to go out and buy a food truck with 500,000 miles, I think you need to have a plan to park it. You don't want to drive that around. These V8s and these unless you're a mechanic, that shouldn't be an issue. But do your homework before you buy the truck. Okay? Um, breakdowns, fans go bad, refrigerators go bad, freezers go bad. There's a lot of heat in that truck. Deep fryers, especially if you don't maintain the deep fryers, these are like unexpected. Gas deep fryers have a honeycomb, but if you notice the deep fryer is getting too dark, it is building a lot of soot. within its vicinity, and most times up in the exhaust fan, that means your deep fryer needs to clean. It needs to be cleaned on the inside. You might have to take the burner off and spray in there, or you can spray in between there and get rid of all that soot. And believe me, you'll notice a huge difference. When you look at your flame in your deep fryer, you ought to have a mixed flame. It should be blue and it should be yellow. That means oxygen is present in your flame. It scavenges oxygen. The electric deep fryers, they're like to me, they're like maintenance free. But if you have gas deep fryer, another thing about deep fryers, the parts go bad, thermostats go bad, thermistors go bad. You got to expect that. And these technicians sometimes they come out at 120 bucks an hour. Me personally, I am an HVAC slash mechanic as my ex professions before I got into the food business. That's not a worry to me. The other day I had a freezer go bad. The fan was actually making noise. The only issue about a food truck, man, when you have to repair appliances, is that everything is bolted down, and God forbid a freezer goes bad, right? You got to take everything out of the freezer and then put it in another freezer and then move that big box and see if you can get to it. I swear I started to cut a hole in that damn thing on from the outside to change the fan. But I was able to change the fan. I got one from Amazon, and it's still running, no problem. Okay, so yes, hidden fees. Try to keep $1,000 on the side because inspections, like if you have your hood, you got your hood. I think every 2 years, certain it depends on the state. You got to get it inspected, and most time inspection is like $300 for those things. The guy would come in, he would check your fire extinguisher, check your suppression system, and stuff like that. Legally, you don't have to do it every 2 years, as long as you look at your gauges and your gauges are full. The thing hasn't been used as far as the fire thing. I don't think it's necessary to spend $300 or $400 every year, every 2 years to get that sticker put on. But if you do events, some events would require for that sticker that has the date on it. Well, the fire marshal put they'll inspect it, and they can be fucking anal. Let me tell you something. They can be anal. Do I need a business loan? No, you need money. I mean, by any means, if that's what you can get. But I wouldn't get a loan depending on the food truck to pay it. Because sometimes the food truck can take a while for you to start making money. It gets confusing. Right today, food is very expensive. So now you got to learn how to ration, how to be really, really, really conservative about how you serve. And that extra piece of chicken tenders that you give someone can cost you, man. So when you first start out, make sure that you got one set price. Don't be raising prices because people are, wait a minute, this was $15 last week. Now it's 20. No. Separate, make portions of your menu. Make sure that if you set a price, you keep that price. Okay? People don't like just because I know we're in a bad economy, you got to make up for things, but you got to keep it down. If you keep it down and people they'll come back. Okay? What is the Well, yeah, a business loan is that's your choice, but I wouldn't personally get a loan with an interest of say 5 or 6%, depending on the food truck. And that's a business that I've never been in, and you don't know. I wouldn't suggest that. No. What is the cheapest food truck concept to start with? My opinion, I would do a fruit truck. Fruit. I would sell fruit. I would start off with a fruit truck. Fruit, like pineapple. Because doesn't require a commissary. It doesn't require full inspection. It does not require a lot of equipment. You just basically got a cutting table, a prep table. You got yourself a cooling table or a cooler of some sort, like one of those salad refrigerators. You store the fruit. That's basically what you need. A refrigerator. Yeah, you don't even need a freezer. That's the cheapest to me way to get into the food business. Selling fruits, you cut up your pineapples, you put your little, spices on there, your little condensed milk, and you go from there. Believe me, in the summertime, that stuff sells. Because what happens is, like in the state of Florida, they don't like to see that stuff on the street corner. No, they don't. They don't allow you to sell food in the state of Florida under some tent. They don't allow you to sell anything that is exposed to just outside. Period. If you have a grill, however, you can grill and then hand it to somebody inside the food truck. So to answer that question, the cheapest way to get into the food truck business is to start out with fruits. Next question: can I start a food truck with under $10,000? Not a full equipped food truck with stoves and flat pans and everything. No, you can't. Wow, that would be your luck right there. You know what I mean? Because the average hood inside of a food truck is about 10 grand. If you do it yourself, just say, well, I won't exaggerate, about $5,000 to get just the hood alone. So if you look at all the equipment that's inside the truck, the trailer itself, like if you get a diamond tandem trailer with four wheels, that itself is around 7,000. If it didn't go up since I purchased the last one. So 10,000 to me can buy you a used trailer. Just say you buy a used trailer for about 3 grand. And then everything I just said about the fruit truck equipment, you can buy those. You can buy them used. By the way, there's a company called Vivor. There's certain things you can buy. When it comes to juicers, don't buy those things. Juices are, you got Bun, Bunn, Bun Ultra are your best juices because the buns can actually do slushies and they can do juice. I bought a couple of Avors. The seals leak and the sugar gets into the motor. It was a nightmare. 10 grand can get you a food truck. It can get you something like a fruit truck. I know it won't do a donut truck. Like somebody who's selling it, like for instance, a small 16-foot, the guy does tacos, or he's got one little flat pan in there, one little fridge, his little fire thing. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna do no self-sufficient food truck with it, but you can start out with it. Um, is a trailer better than a truck? I explained at the top of the conversation, a trailer is better because you can park the trailer. If the truck breaks down, you can't. You're out. If your food truck breaks down, you're out of business for a while. You're going to be down for a while. So that's why I actually recommend a food trailer from my experience. Okay, guys, come on, guys, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, man. What is the next question? Do I need a commissary kitchen? In most cases, you do because they do recommend that. The first time you get inspected, it's going to be at some commissary. Remember, a commissary is nothing but a restaurant. When you start out, you get a commissary, and you might not have to even go back to that commissary. Okay. Um, Certain trucks don't need a commissary. Number one, self-sufficient trucks don't need a commissary. You might need them to go dump your gray water, which is a logic that I never understand. The same thing I cook at home goes in my septic tank is the same thing I cook on the food truck. Now that oil, you can sell that oil. You find the right person, they'll pay you for it. So that's all said and done. When you buy oil, you make sure that you keep the jug, and then when you get ready to, you know, put new oil in the deep fryer, you just take the old one, put it in that jug, and sit it there. Put it on Facebook. People do buy it. You got some of these schools, some of these colleges that are making right now biodiesel. They'll buy it from you, or you can just give it to them for free. What do you think the commissary does with it? They sell it. Okay, next question. What licenses and permits do I need? Well, first of all, before you get into any food business, you need something called Serve Safe certificate. A Serve Safe certificate is actually what shows you how to handle food, temperatures, allergens, disease, cross contamination, hand wash, storage, chemicals, um, keeping records, understanding temperatures such as, okay, water freezes at 32 degrees. If you got potato salad out for 3.5 hours, when do you bring it back into the fridge? Danger zones. Is a danger zone something too hot, too cold, or danger zone? Has it been left out too long? Or is something too hot that's supposed to be cool? Like, okay, you got potato salad. Potato salad can be done two ways. Some people like potato salad cold out of the fridge. It's a salad, right? And then you got macaroni salad, which is the same concept. But I make hot potato salad, which is like a potato salad, but it's more like a mashed potato that is actually cooked. So you got to know the difference between foods that are kept cold and foods that are kept warm. What is the average temperature, to keep you got fish, in a pan at an event. Okay, you got to maintain 145. Which one? See, the when you buy the book, you learn all those things. Okay, you learn how to store food, keep food, understanding temperatures and stuff. And another thing, once you pass that test, I think it's 75 out of 100. That is the first step you need to know before opening up any food business. Okay, the second license you need is basically if you have the food truck, now you got to get into the DBPR, which is the hotels and restaurants, a branch in Florida. And then they'll come in, they'll inspect the truck. Yay, nay. Mainly what they look for is cleanliness and the hot water. And then the second thing they look for is like the test strips that when you sanitize, you got to know how to test the water as far as sanitizing and sanitation is concerned and stuff like that. But the book will show you how to sanitize, how to wash, even how to wash your hands. I mean, you've been washing your hands all your life, but you never understood that you need it's a different way of washing your hands. Okay, so once your truck is inspected, you get your license, which is the hotels and restaurants license, and you get a sticker you put on the window, and you go from there. That's all that is. So the next question is basically, how is it? Is it hard to pass inspection, health inspection? I wouldn't call it health inspection. It's just an inspection that they come in and you know they just like I just said, the hot water and the test strips. What is a Surf Safe certificate? I think I kind of answered that one before I got to it. Do I need insurance on a food truck? Well, a food truck is a vehicle. Obviously, you're going to need insurance, and it's very expensive too, man. Let me go back to that. What's the difference between a trailer and a food truck? Let's connect those two. Insurance is very expensive in the food truck, my friend. Um, Avoid buying a food truck with six wheels. A dually is considered damn like a damn tractor trailer, man. They'll charge you $1,000 a month for insurance because it's got six wheels. If you're gonna buy a food truck that does not have dual wheels in the back. It makes a whole lot of a difference, especially here in Florida, where insurance is like that's what you work for in Florida. Insurance and taxes. No more, everybody's suffering down here. So try and get yourself something. Well, you don't need insurance on the food truck if it's parked. No, you don't. If it's parked, you don't need insurance. But if it's on the street, you're driving around with it. Yes, you need insurance. A trailer, you don't. You see the difference? Okay, next question. I can I park anywhere and sell food? Well, you can't park anywhere and sell food. You got to have permission. However, what you can do, you can drive and sell food. You can drive 15 minutes. You can stand there until your line dissipates, or you can go to certain spots and sell food. Can you stand at Joe's gas station and sell food? Well, if Joe says yes, you can. You can. Um, they require for you to be at a C2, and the next bathroom has to be within 100 feet or something, I think. So yes, you can, but you can't park anywhere that you're not authorized to park. What cities are best for food trucks? I What cities don't like food trucks, rather, right? Most cities don't like food trucks. That's why you got to fight. You can be parked somewhere. Next thing you know, code enforcement walks up. They make up an absolute different Muni code right there, just because the guy down the street gave him a fucking burger. He can come and say, "Hey, man, you can't park here." You gotta wait a minute. You gotta back up. You gotta say, "Wait, wait, wait. Why can't I park here? Give me the book. Throw the book at me. Read the book." Most times they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Well, if you feel you are within your rights, say, "Hey, man, I need to go to the board." Most times they'll leave you alone. Now, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a minute. A lot of these food trucks are nasty. Okay, I'm talking to you, food trucks. Come on, get a garbage can, dude. If a customer's done with something, garbage can right there. Don't let them just toss it somewhere, and then next thing you know, you got a littering issue because of your food truck. The reason why I mentioned C2 is because C2 is a much bigger space in order for you not to create a traffic jam in the parking lot itself, which can cause a problem. They require for you to have a C2 location. As long as you're permitted, I don't think that should be an issue. Next question would be, guys, let me see. I am heading to the 40th minute on this live. Any questions, anybody? I am open. Um, Let me see what I got here. All right, we're working on it. We're working on it. Do I need an LLC? Well, an LLC is a limited liability company that limits you to a certain amount if somebody sues you. Well, limits them to a certain amount if somebody sues you. For instance, you got $15,000 in this LLC. Somebody gets hurt. That's all you got. Limited liability. That's all you got. 15 grand. You can create an LLC, but where do you go to put that? You got to find somewhere to put that. There's a fine print in that LLC that, hey, I only got 15 grand in case somebody gets sued. Well, does that eliminate my what do you call it, insurance, the food insurance? You don't have to have insurance on food. You can have the liability as far as that as insurance. You can bond. You can have your own bond. For instance, if somebody gets hurt, hey man, this is what I got. Let's settle. You have a right to do that. You don't have to have an LLC to have a business. If you live in your county, there's something called a tax receipt, which is actually a local a local tax receipt, like a license. You can say it's got to be under Mr. Joe's name, Mr. Joe's Barbecue, Mr. Joseph's Barbecue. It's got to be under your name. An LLC actually is the privilege of you having something under a name, which is a fictitious name. Okay, you could turn Joe's Barbecue into an LLC, but if you don't have an LLC, you got to do it under Patrick's Grill. You know what I mean? And then you can just put Pat's Grill on your truck. You're local. The only thing is you're limited because if you got to go out to another county, you're not registered by the state. So that county is going to want you to get a tax receipt from their county before you start selling in their county. But in reality, you don't need an LLC to do business. What taxes do food truck owners? This is a very good question. What taxes do food truck owners pay? Food truck owners pay sales tax because you have a sales tax ID number. If you choose to get a sales tax ID number, once you get it, you can buy food without paying taxes. Me personally, I don't think it's worth it. Don't be getting no damn tax ID number because these people by every 30 days or every 90 days, they'll be holding you by the neck. And every time you're late, it's $50, even if you send in zero. Okay. Um, do you have to collect sales tax from a customer? Yes and no. If you're selling natural fruits and juices, no. That's not taxed in the state of Florida. If you're selling a hamburger, which requires process, you have to collect the sales tax from that person. Okay. Um, if you don't collect the sales tax, I don't know, so be it. But food trucks pay sales tax if you do have a tax ID number. Say you go to Restaurant Depot and you buy $500 worth of food. Restaurant Depot is going to tax you not on the food itself, but if you buy bleach and soap and stuff like that, those are taxed. Okay. So they give you the privilege of not paying the tax on the food, but when you process that food, you cook it and you serve it, they want you to collect the percentage in Florida, which is 6%, 6.5%. So if you sell something for $1, you can charge the person $1.07, or you can charge them 6%. So that zero point 0.5 can round off to more or less. It's complicated. You can leave a comment. I will explain it better. Yes, sales tax. It's actually, I think it's mandatory. I don't mess with those people because they're not friendly. Yes, sales tax is what you pay. So therefore, before you get your, well, after you get your serve safe, now you get your serve safe, and then you go get your sales tax ID number, and then you get your EIN number, which is the federal, and then from there, at the end of the year, if you've made enough money as a self-employed person, you can do your taxes and you can elect to pay SSA. You can pay your own SSA, you can pay your own FICA, your own Medicare. You can send some money back and hopefully, when you retire, we still have the same system in place. Me, I'm iffy about that. I don't know. But anyway, you can you it's mandatory to pay sales tax. At the same time, you can do your own federal taxes under that same income, sort of like a W-2 or whatever type of corporation you do have. You can work for that corporation, S or C, whichever. You can act like you are an employee, a W-2 of that company that you created. Okay, this question here, I think I answered it. What equipment is required in the food truck? What equipment is required? It depends on what you choose to do. You want to cook hot food, you're going to need a stove. You're going to need a warmer. You're going to need somewhere to store the food, refrigeration. See, this is the part where self-sufficient comes in. If you're big enough, you don't need a commissary. You can cook and store. I never understood the concept of going to a commissary every time you're done working to go store the food. That is the stupidest idea, and then it's probably part of the systematic racism that there's a certain group of people that do this. We're gonna keep them down. I'm serious. How in the hell am I gonna haul a damn 26-foot truck plus a 20-foot pickup truck, damn near 40 feet long? Every time I'm done work, I gotta take it to the commissary and store the food. Who does that when you can store the food in your truck? Popped in the back, plugged in, no problem. Okay, gas or electric equipment? That's a good one. I use a lot of new waves. For instance, if I'm making somebody an egg sandwich, I just use a new wave, one of those little flat induction ovens. Um, Both gas and electric. I wanted to get electronic deep gas deep fryers, but when I look at the amperage, it's a lot. I mean, you can do it if you got. I got a 60 amp hookup in my truck. But if you did electric deep fryers, the big ones like Checkers have, you probably would have to do a separate circuit, a separate box of your 208, 230 at minimum 60 amps. Now the amp draw, for instance, what would the kilowatt hours be when you fry? But I know one thing: electric deep fryers are like maintenance free. Something goes wrong, you change the board, and then you can have a system that recycles the oil also at the bottom of it because there's more room. Yeah, gas and electric. You don't have to use gas if you're making somebody an egg sandwich. You're making a hamburger, you can use a flat pan. You're making something like a grilled cheese sandwich, you can use like a panini clamshell. You know what I mean? You don't have to use your gas all the time. All right. How much generator power do I need? 30 amps minimum. 30 amps minimum is what you need. 30 amps would run your mini split, which most trucks do have. Air conditioning. 30 amps can run a couple of juices, the fridge, and everything else. Well, let me give you a tip about freezers. If you're cooking and you are on a generator, turn the freezer off or put it on a timer. Okay? Once the freezer reaches 32 degrees, a little below, you don't need it on anymore. It's just going to keep going down to like -1, -2. You don't need to flash freeze the thing, whatever you got in there. You could turn off your freezers when you're working. Just pay attention to it. Or you could actually put a timer. Every few hours it turns back on. Okay. Uh, how do food trucks get water and electricity? Food trucks get water and electricity by having a separate tank for the fresh water, and it's got sometimes two tanks for the wastewater. So you have a pump that is actually in underneath the sink. The pump is 110 volts. That's plugged in. When you turn the water on, there's a flow valve. That flow valve triggers the pump, okay, and water comes at you. Or if you are at a stationary location, just use your water hose. You can tee in to the inlet hose, use the water hose, and then you'll have just regular pressure, city water, and everything else. That's the same. Um, the electricity part, you can have a generator, and then you can actually plug into a pole. depending on where you're at. So I am going to do about another minute, and then I will mark the questions. And the next live is probably going to be later on or tomorrow. I'm going to finish the questions. And the last question is, what POS systems work best for food trucks? Uh, well, Square is the best to me, my experience. Okay, so Square's the by experience. Square is probably the best because if somebody does a claim, since Square is like a third party, the claim doesn't go through. It does not. So that's the last question, guys. Leave the comments. I'm going to end the live. I'll be back soon, and then I will resume from what POS as far as the last question I answered, and I still have some more questions that people sent me. And then, guys, leave a like, thumbs up, please subscribe, encourage the channel, and I got more content coming. So if you feel as if you're opening up this food truck, it's a nightmare to you. You already got 30 grand in this thing, and you're like, my God, what am I gonna do? Well, my husband doesn't feel it. I don't understand it. And just leave me a comment. I will see to it that I answer your questions and make it as comfortable for you and your partner to get going and start making money. Until next time, guys, Chef John, Grab and Go Concessions. Okay.